The dog and I are here on the hillside. This part of Battery Point used to look different to how it is now. It's very green, it's bucolic. In the distance you can hear maintenance workers doing gardening. This spot here used to look nothing like this, and it was a lot less pleasant. And the air was filled with the sound of artillery. So the dog and I have come as far as we can. We'd like to go beyond the bars. All we can do is reach through them. The dog can smell something inside perhaps. There's this strange but cool breeze that's emanating from inside the hill. This gun magazine formed part of a larger structure, and that thing is one of the older things that have been built in Tasmania. And it's the reason why Battery Point has the name that it does. I think the dog's a bit spooked out. An image of Hobart from Mulgrave Battery in 1825 by Augustus Earl. The guns had been dragged off a ship. Mulgrave Battery, together with an accompanying signal station, was established in 1818 as part of a network of coastal defences. The initial fortification was later described as an unsuitable, ineffective defensive position. So a second battery, the Prince of Wales, was built in 1840 on a more commanding position looking across the water. A third and final, known as Albert Battery, was constructed in the mid-1850s even further up the hill again. In time, the place became a ruin, filled with slopping mud, the weapons less than decorations. In truth, all of the batteries were only ever properly used for ceremonies. A 1929 photograph shows indents from the now beginning to be forgotten battery formations. On the ground, as you move through the park today, you can see the spots lifting up unnaturally. Where the guns once aimed at theoretical enemy ships, there is now a playground in the shape of a boat. The guardhouse for the Mulgrave Battery became the Semaphore Cottage, and it claims to be the oldest remaining building in the suburb. This building that the dog and I are enjoying didn't used to look like this. It's been painted white and black to hold it together, otherwise the original brickwork would fall apart in the wind and the weather. It was part of the original connective network of Van Diemen's Land that allowed people to get messages from places like Hobart all the way to far away Port Arthur and back again. Thankfully it's still here. Telegraph tree at Port Arthur by Ludwig Becker from 1851. A daisy chain linked Port Arthur to Hobart town. The plan was to link up Hobart to Launceston the same way, but the arrival of the telegraph made the plan redundant. In 1936, the Ship Lovers Society of Tasmania led one of Hobart's earliest heritage campaigns to save the derelict cottage from demolition, and their effort is our reward. The ordnance stores were designed by John Lee Archer and built by the British military using convict forced labour. Built in 1836, the structure was actually left incomplete due to funds becoming insufficient. Budget blowout in the port is part of Tasmanian culture. Today they form part of the Great Wall of Sandstone that runs the length of the new wharf of the Battery. Constructed in 1889, there's a small octagonal building with a steeply pitched roof and a central fanial. Beneath the building, a saltwater-filled pit that was cut through the rock. A metal float sank and rose with the tide. Hobart's tide gauge building is the only in-situ structure of its type in the country. The central mechanism is no longer there, but it's a clue to how much closer the waterline once was. The pre-arrival shoreline of Hobart was very different. Today, if you can find a large flat spot, it's safe to say that it was created by earlier men. Even the old plane trees of today have their roots driven into a spot that was once filled with waves. Between the trees are some museum pieces, whaling tripods for rendering oil from blubber. The Derwent was once filled with the great animals, but they were hunted away. Deep sea was the only place that the whales were left. At that point, to get them required larger boats. Brothers Alexander and John McGregor ran a large shipyard by the Domain in the 1850s and 1860s, and their success afforded them fine homes. Alexander had Lena, built with clear views above the Battery and out to sea. What began as the original Bailey cottage was extended and remade. A few years later, the Italianate architecture had incorporated all that was of the original cottage. The other brother, John Alexander, had Hillcrest just across the road. Today it looks pretty much like it always has. A Horton forest painting shows Lena to the left and Hillcrest to the right. Also in the painting is a road that no longer exists. Runnymede Street used to run all the way down to Castray Esplanade. But buildings now exist there and elsewhere all around. So here you've got one of 4 tubes, and these tubes have been filled with apartments. Built in 1962, the silos were used as a storage facility for grain destined for export. After becoming unused for their original purpose, they remained as a prop for neon signs and for the occasional abseiling event, which was very much in vogue during the 1990s. At the turn of the millennium, the building had been converted into high-end apartments. At the rear are the original curve shapes. At the front, the spoiler extensions. The Battery is the gentrified ruins of a working port. Arthur Circus allotments were sold in 1847 by Lieutenant Governor Arthur, who had acquired the land in 1829 under shaky dealings. The spot where the dog and I are at this very second is here by accident, and that's how a lot of interesting things in Battery Point and Tasmania as a whole got to be where they are. They weren't really initially designed to be the way that they became. Originally intended to be a cul-de-sac, room was made for a road to pass through on the other side. From the start, road movements always went around the outside of the park in the middle. Except in the 1940s when a road was put down the middle so traffic could travel faster. Today, it is the only such circus in Australia. From the circus, you could see a building. Bray Lyndon was a house like no other, unique in design and feel, made from stone, a large veranda and rotunda. It was demolished in 1964. A spread of orange flats are erected in the place. Today, a 2-bedroom premises there costs 9 times the average national salary.